American history is often told as separate stories, one about Black Americans, another about Native Americans. But for centuries, these histories were deeply intertwined in ways most textbooks ignore. The connections between Black and Native communities reveal stories of survival, resistance, and resilience that have been overlooked for generations, yet they shaped the course of American history in profound ways. By the end of this video, you will understand how these two communities found each other, fought together, and preserved cultural identities against impossible odds. The story begins in the early colonial period, when Africans were forcibly brought to North America as enslaved people. At the same time, Native nations controlled vast territories across the continent. Many enslaved Africans attempted to escape the brutality of plantations, seeking freedom wherever they could. Native lands often became havens for these runaways. In regions such as the Southeast, including Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas, Africans found refuge among tribes like the Seminole, Creek, Cherokee, and Choctaw. These were not temporary arrangements. Escaped Africans were sometimes adopted into the tribes, married into families, and became fully integrated members of the community. This merging of cultures created new identities, unique alliances, and shared traditions that would endure despite the pressures of colonization and slavery. One of the most compelling examples comes from the Seminole people of Florida. Escaped Africans who joined the Seminoles, later known as Black Seminoles, developed their own dialect called Afro-Seminole Creole and established independent settlements. Together with the Seminoles, they resisted attempts by European and American forces to re-enslave them. During the Seminole Wars, which lasted from 1817 to 1858, Black Seminoles and Native Americans fought side by side to defend their homes and autonomy. Leaders like John Horse became legendary for their courage and strategic skill, commanding forces in defense of their communities. These alliances were not simply about survival, they were deliberate acts of resistance that challenged the institutions of slavery and colonial control. The colonial and early American governments were deeply threatened by these alliances. The thought of escaped Africans joining Native nations, arming themselves, and resisting colonial authority was seen as a dangerous precedent. As a result, laws were enacted to target both African fugitives and the Native communities sheltering them. Some tribes, under pressure, began to adopt forms of slavery themselves, while others resisted, creating tensions both within and between nations. Despite these challenges, many Black Native communities persisted, preserving their cultures and traditions through extraordinary resilience. The forced removal of Native Americans in the 19th century, known as the Trail of Tears, further entwined Black and Native histories. Thousands of Native Americans were forced to march hundreds of miles from their homelands to designated territories west of the Mississippi River. Black people, both enslaved and free, accompanied them, experiencing the same hunger, disease, and death that claimed the lives of thousands. This shared trauma solidified bonds between the communities, creating relationships rooted in survival, mutual support, and cultural exchange. After the Civil War, the situation became even more complex. Freed African Americans who had lived among Native nations often faced legal and social uncertainty. Treaties promised citizenship rights to these individuals, but these promises were frequently ignored or contested. The Cherokee freedmen, descendants of Black people who had been adopted into the Cherokee Nation, fought for recognition as citizens for decades. These struggles highlight how intertwined Black and Native histories created unique legal and cultural challenges that persist into modern times. Beyond the political and legal struggles, the cultural exchange between Black and Native communities left lasting impacts. Music, language, and oral traditions flowed between the groups. Families with mixed Black and Native heritage maintained distinct practices, blending African spiritual customs with Native rituals and folklore. Food, art, and storytelling became a medium through which shared histories were preserved, even when broader society attempted to erase or ignore them. These cultural connections serve as a testament to the creativity and resilience of communities forced to navigate oppression while preserving identity. The reasons this history has often been ignored are multiple. One is simplicity. History textbooks and mainstream narratives prefer neat categories, Black, Native, European, rather than stories that blur these lines. Another reason is discomfort. Acknowledging shared resistance, mixed identities, and complex alliances challenges conventional narratives of American expansion and progress. Yet ignoring these stories erases critical lessons about survival, resistance, and the power of community in the face of systemic oppression. Understanding this history is not just an academic exercise. It illuminates contemporary issues such as identity, legal disputes over land and tribal membership, and the recognition of mixed heritage communities. These are not abstract concepts. They affect real people today. Recognizing the contributions and struggles of Black Native communities honors the courage and resilience of those who endured slavery, forced removal, and cultural erasure. It also reminds us that history is not static. It is made by people, and their stories persist when we take the time to listen. The narrative of Black and Native Americans demonstrates the power of alliances in times of oppression. Where the system sought to divide, communities found ways to unite. They resisted together, preserved knowledge together, and created identities that could survive the harshest circumstances. These stories of collaboration and shared struggle are deeply human. They remind us that the past is not simply a collection of dates and events, but a tapestry of relationships, decisions, and courage. As we reflect on this history, it becomes clear that these connections are still relevant. Recognition of the freedmen and Black Native families continues to evolve. Legal battles, cultural preservation efforts, and academic research all contribute to bringing these stories into the light. By studying these histories, we gain a more complete understanding of the American experience, one that acknowledges both the oppression and the resilience that shaped the nation. History, in this sense, is never complete. The stories of Black and Native Americans demonstrate that survival, identity, and resistance often exist outside the dominant narratives we are taught. They challenge us to think critically about what has been left out and why. More importantly, they invite us to celebrate the ingenuity, courage, and humanity of those who came before us. Their experiences remind us that while history can be ignored or rewritten, it cannot be erased entirely. The past waits to be remembered, and when we do, it enriches our understanding of who we are today. The story of Black and Native Americans is a testament to resilience, alliance, and the enduring human spirit. It is a story of people who, against overwhelming odds, built communities, preserved cultures, and resisted oppression. It reminds us that history is not just a record of events, but a living narrative shaped by those who lived it. By remembering this history, we honor those who endured, fought, and survived. Their legacy continues in the people, traditions, and communities that thrive today, a reminder that history is never truly forgotten. It waits for us to uncover it and learn from it. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.